Hey, buddy. How's it
Hey,
going, man?
good. Yourself?
I'm good. First of all, thank you so much. It's a very nice place that you have, and it's the first time we are catching up at your place, isn't it?
Yes,
So, what are we going to talk about today, man? It's our first podcast, isn't it? And
yes,
I
it
think the
is.
timing is right. So, what time? What date is it today? So, today is 18th of December 2024, and obviously, we don't want to keep this a lot more formal. We just wanted to keep it a bit more casual because the year has come to an end, and both of us are going to be on holiday starting from next week, and we just wanted to share a little bit more on this journey. So before we begin, there are a few things that I wanted to highlight. Of course, we can share a lot of data related matters, which is already there out there in the public media. And we don't want to be going through those because, to be honest, Singapore's unemployment rate, and yeah, it is a fact, but what effect does it actually have on a candidate? To be honest, does it have any actionable insights to that particular candidate? The answer is no. So we would like to, keep things real. We would like to actually discuss things that actually works and what did not work for us or what we would actually advise people. That is what we are actually going to share on this particular channel, right? So if you're looking for something more like stats, maybe this video is not going to be the right one, but we will, definitely look at, producing such videos. But for the time being, this is the first video. We just, want to share what our experience has been.
Yeah, how's the past 1.5 years been for you so far? Setting up Stemgenic, the processes as well as, of course, on the setting up processes as well as on the revenue end. Two big things to juggle. How did you manage to do that?
It has been an interesting journey, to be honest. I mean, I got to say that, when you are starting up something on your own, it is almost like you're stepping into an unknown zone, but you can plan. No matter how much you plan, you can always have a clear vision of step by step or process, etc. But there's always going to be a certain uncertainty which you'll only know when you get into the grounds, right? So the industries that we specialize in are also going through huge changes. This was the time when we launched the business, right? So I kind of knew that the clients where I had relationship with already, they may not be the ones who are actually hiring. So I was kind of prepared for that. And also, this was a stage where I'm doing this for the first time. So right from designing the logo, designing the website, designing the CRM, the systems, processes. Since you are doing it, since I'm actually doing it, there was this benefit of configuring everything according to the markets that we specialize in. I think that's something that was the main unique way in which how Stemgenic differs from most of the other players in the market, because we, even though we don't rely much on third party tools, the tools that we have are more customized for our workflow and processes. And you by now you know that there's quite a lot of automation in the entire system, so you don't
Mm.
really need to do a lot of manual work. Everything is connected. So from, if you're doing step A, step B should naturally be right in front of you so that you move to step B versus you searching for step B and doing something. So that was kind of like a rough vision that I had. So creating the right infrastructure, creating the right brand, and the markets that we are going to specialize in, right?
Yeah.
So in terms of the setting up the processes and putting things into action and also getting the license itself, that was like what, 1 to 2 months proper wait, because I also needed to get my work pass sorted out as well. So that took a quite bit of a time. So even though I got into the game in July, the official launch was in November. So
Yeah.
that was the time when Erwin was also onboarding. So both of us, we just had the basic framework there, isn't it? It was not like a clear cut idea where, even to be honest, we didn't even know whom to call first, which particular client to go after, because that was the time the word retrenchment and the layoffs were slowly getting it started, isn't it?
Yes.
So we just had to, like, be a bit more smarter in regards to where we are going to go after the money. Of course, yes, placements were our first target. Even though we had a lot of ideas on additional services, but so in your startup, you have to go for placements. So we didn't waste any particular time. I think, Erwin, on your side, you dived in, I dived in, and
Yes.
I think you got the first placement, isn't it?
Yeah, I did. I did.
Yeah. That was in which month?
We launched in November, got the role in December. I think managed to close. in January or February, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I
Yeah, it
remember
was
that
quite.
was the first. It was a fast closure. I think it was in
Yeah,
December somewhere you closed it, I
yeah,
guess. You got the numbers out in December.
yeah. Correct. I think he started. Then he started the next,
Yeah.
which is this year essentially.
And then I made one, and after that, we had a quite a decent build up of jobs. I mean, Touchwood, by God's grace, even though it was a tough market, and if we were a new player, and I don't think, to be honest, we were not really relying on any particular brands. I think it was our own individual experience that we were leveraging into. So once we started getting the first cash in, I think that was when I think both of us were assured that we are on the right track. So till then, it's always about, are we going to make this happen or will this work? But it was a risk taking process, and this is the time to take risks. Both of us were kind of, clear on our heads that, if not now, then when? That kind of mindset, right? So and that then once the first set of placements were confirmed, I think that's when we started looking at the processes, right? The processes in regards to how we work, how we store our candidates, and how do we actually create a workflow. Um, there were so many tools that we were looking to consider, especially for the CRM. And what we really wanted was where we could actually customize it towards third party tools, where all the tools can be connected, not like just using one CRM for just day to day activity, and then another third party tool to manage your analytics and things. So we wanted
Yes.
something that could connect to each other properly without us doing any manual work. I think I dived into that at that time, because that's when the load started happening, right? When you're so used to just doing billings and billings and billings, now of course you have to start looking at the business, how you're going to grow it, and that of course takes a bit of a time, right?
Yeah.
But again, for Erwin, I think your pathway was quite clear, right? You were purely on to going out there hunting and bringing in the revenue, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, how about yourself? I understand. I think for your market, um, it has been challenging where most of your target clients have undergone restructuring. So what did you do differently, to maybe attract more clients, or or what do you do differently to build the revenue when I would say in terms of your overall industry focus, it most companies have gone it's probably have went through
yeah, yeah.
restructuring it this year.
Yeah, to be honest, I mean, this year has been a tough ride. Most of the clients that I have got very strong relationship, they are going through a huge restructuring and layoffs. But again, it is what it is. I think this when you've been in the market for really a long time in specific sectors, I think the name and the experience really has an impact. And when we talk to clients about the problems that they are facing, I'm kind of looking at it like how do I find a solution to that particular problem. And it's usually not always limited towards finding a candidate. It's also about thinking from other aspects. For example, you can also think from like there is this particular client looking for this particular role for really a long time. They have literally spoken to all the particular candidates and so on. For that particular job, is there anything else we could do? Can I give them insights like you revise this role into this or this. Example, there is an analytical manager for a flavor house that I was working in. That was a very interesting role. So initially, when I worked on that role, the expectation from the client is that they wanted someone with managerial skill sets. So and after a couple of rounds, with the candidates, the client was a bit hesitant in moving forward, because none of the candidates were like showing signs that they could actually do that role at a managerial level. So I had to provide them data to show that okay, maybe if you're looking at managerial skills, the candidate pool is quite limited, and these are the candidates that I have already approached. So that data is there with them, and if they are going to be still continuing down that path, eventually they have to make a decision with these candidates, because I have mapped it inside out. There's not going to be any new candidates who are entering
Mm.
that particular pool. And remember, we are only looking at the local pool here in Singapore. It's quite limited, right? So the second solution that I gave them is, why don't we look at candidates who are able to come on board as an individual contributor, work in the team, and later down the line, 2 to 3 years, with a proper timeline, they will be able to take on the next step. Why
Okay.
don't we consider senior analytical chemists, analytical candidates who are very interested in taking on a managerial role. So I gave them a market map of those particular candidates, and that became an alternative tier. Right? I think the solutions offering piece is something that I really like doing, and just getting a job and doing keyword searches and sending CVs is, I mean, something that I can do. But honestly, does it really excite me to do searches and work every day? I don't think that's my cup of tea. I think it's always a solutions piece. So when there's a role, it's always a solutions angle that I will think about. When I say data, you're actually really looking at candidates data, like proper candidates with details, etc. And that's where I think I had my strengths, and that's where I started getting leverage in the market. And whether let's say if the clients that I used to work with, if they are giving me jobs, that's a different story altogether. But if you look at the first 6 to 8 months, I think 6 to 8 months of the business journey, almost like 80% of the interaction has been with new clients, to be honest. And when I say new clients, for them, this is the first time they are hearing Stemgenic, and for us, it is the first time that we are actually having official discussions with these companies. And quite a lot of them are actually established players and a few startups. And especially the startups ones are quite exciting because they need our services to sell the opportunity to and also give them an idea of what sort of talent pools we are looking at, right? Another interesting journey is that I think the time that we started STEM journey is a good time because this is the time when we had all this AI getting into the industry. So a lot of industries were, starting to take their next step in their evolution. I think, I mean, me, I'm a bit of a tech guy. There is a geeky side to me, which I really like. I mean, I always like try to see what is the new technology that is out there. How do we implement it in the business? And since ours is a very small, boutique setup, it was very easy for us to experiment with a lot of tools out there. So right now, if you look at the entire infrastructure, so Stemgenic is now a platform, isn't it? Like, a platform where you have a proper database, I could say. Database.
Definitely
We also
proper.
have a CRM system where you can actually manage your customers, and then we also have data analytics that can visualize your entire CRM plus database. And we also have got all the expensive tools like LinkedIn Recruiter, LinkedIn Talent Insights, plus I think the other two we should not be mentioning, isn't it? That's
Yes.
going to be our our key secret, isn't it?
Yes,
We don't want to
definitely.
give that out. So with all these tools, right? I think it puts the business into a spot where we got all the resources that we need to provide solutions. So, whether we are up against the big players or whether we are up against, similar players like, at the same level that we are operating with, I think the resources, there's nothing short of resources. We pretty much, have everything that we really need, which puts us in a very good spotlight. I think that's one of our key strengths. Let's say if we had made any sacrifices here, I think that would have had an impact in our success for this year, right?
Yeah.
I think having resources like this is going to be quite beneficial. The second half of this year has been a lot more interesting because this is the time when we rolled out the other sort of services to the sector, because we actually began with the traditional search process, which is the standard contingency and the retained search, but this time we have given a lot more options onto the table. So we got the talent map insights as a separate service. We've also introduced job marketing solutions. So this is something that is a little bit new to the industry. So where actually we can help a client market their job towards a certain specific target candidate sector. And this is purely marketing, which means that basically getting that job towards the candidate,
Mm.
making sure that the candidate is aware of this particular job. I think this is something that is really unique. How we do it, we are happy to discuss those details when we have an opportunity in case a client is watching it. Another interesting service that we rolled out was the career consulting program. I think this is going to be a bit of a game changer in the market because there is career counseling. Career counseling is there. There are a lot of people who actually do career counseling, but again, I don't think there is any particular program that can give an actionable insight towards how a candidate can maximize on their job search.
Mm.
And when I say actionable insights, the program that we are talking about is something that can actually give very, very detailed, precise action plans towards, whom to see, where to knock, what to say, that sort of, actionable program. Currently, we are doing the pilot run for that, and we are working with a few candidates on that. And soon you will see the results and how this particular program functions. So, I think these are some of the key areas that we have been working on, and we are quite pleased with the progress so far. And the most important thing is now it's all about 2025, isn't it? So with
Yes.
all these particular programs, I think we are really looking forward to working with more clients and more candidates this year. This 2025, I think we are going to get a lot more stronger with our candidate side, because I think within our recruitment industry, from an agency's perspective, the mindset is always about working. Any particular agency would always prioritize the clients that they work with, right? But from a candidate side, you got to understand that they want to be exposed to all the companies who are relevant to their experience. But from an agency side, sometimes the focus is a bit limited to only clients with only they are working with. The clients who is not working with those agencies is not something that the agency can do anything there, isn't it? So there's a bit of a limitation there.
Yeah.
So the next year, 2025, I think that's one of the areas where we are trying to focus on. How do we partner with candidates to give them what more holistic approach towards the industry? And that's going to be a bit of, I believe that could be a game changer.
So, for 2025, apart, from focusing on, the candidates, how about, internally as a business, what are your plans for the business in terms of, growing, potentially maybe headcount, or, what is the direction that, you see for, Stemgenic?
I mean, if you look at my entire career journey, I've always been focusing on industrial manufacturing sectors. That has always been
Mm.
my experience area. And deep down inside, I always felt that, there's a lot more that we could actually bring onto the table versus, purely recruitment services.
Yeah.
And second thing is that, from a technology perspective, there are quite a lot of interesting tools that are out there that can be combined together to provide a lot more streamed workflow where businesses can, work together as a team. For example, you and I, we've been working together for almost 1.5 years. I mean, we only have a catch up once a week, right? Whatever you need about the business is there. Everything is at his reach. So that's how the business is designed. He doesn't need to go look for anything anywhere, ask for anything or doubts, because everything is properly in a framework within the business. This is something that I always wanted to do, even though recruitment, having a title of a recruitment consultant and then progressing all the way to become a senior principal and then a manager. I got to say, you can either take this as a career, like a job where you're getting a monthly base. That's fine. But if you actually think about it, it is still like running your own business. There is a certain entrepreneurship to it, because
Yes.
your base salary is actually an investment that your company is giving you, and you got to return it back with more cash, right?
Yeah.
And they win on that angle. I think the risk that they are taking is they are willing to invest that particular initial amount on you to
Mm.
see a return of investment. If no ROI, you are out of the game. So when you are out of the game, how do you say that this is actually a job, right?
Yeah.
Because you need to bring something onto the table. If not,
Exactly.
you're out, right? So if my entire career is dependent on bringing this bread onto the table, why don't I just keep the bread to myself? That was one of the thought process, right? So one of the areas where I got a vision for the business is that I want Stemgenic to be more like a platform. When I say platform, you can run your own desk, like owning your own desk on Stemgenic's platform. So simple as that. I think that's the right way. Stemgenic will provide with all the branding, the infrastructure, the license, the resources, everything that you need to own that particular desk. And your job is to make sure that you fully utilize that particular desk from end to end. With my experience, I can clearly tell this is the actual end of that market. So from here to here, that is yours,
Mm.
right? So that market is yours.
Yeah.
So if you're stepping into that into the business on day one, what you can expect is a clear view of that market. Who are the companies in those particular sector? The key contacts that we have mapped out so far, and then a proper workflow where you can carry on specializing in that market, right? And the best part is we don't believe in work from office. We believe in complete autonomy. Basically, you take the work wherever you go, but we believe the work ethic needs to be there. So
Yeah,
that's why I
definitely.
say, when I say, owning a desk is basically, you're running your own business. So that's not like, oh, I'm going to be late today to work. I need to report to my boss. No, you are late to the work. You're responsible. That is your thing, right? So I think that's the direction that I want to be moving towards. But of course, I'm not saying down no to the employee route. We can still have that route. But overall, my preference to work like, how Erwin is working with business. So
Yeah.
something like more towards that, right? So whoever is interested, if anyone is interested in understanding how they can work with the business, please do contact me. I can walk you through a little bit more on the details. And I think in the industry there are quite similar models, but I haven't seen any successful models in Singapore as well as Southeast Asia. But there are similar models operating in Europe and the US market. I mean, I've come across quite some interesting business who do this.
Okay.
But I don't think when it comes to specialisms within STEM, I think we are quite very, very well equipped and capable in that market. Fine, you sign the contract and you're officially in, right?
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, how did I give you the day one? I'm just trying to recall.
I think we sorted the whole licensing process out, and then
Yeah.
I think we figured like, okay, based on when we took the KH the CI
Oh
test,
yeah,
we
yeah, yeah.
figured like, okay, I think by end of October our license should be approved if nothing goes wrong, and thankfully nothing went wrong. And then I think that's where we came out. I think November will be a good because it was I think a 1 or 2 months break because of the process of getting the license. And then yeah, I think from then on managed to secure the new client and then work on it, and then try to keep basically the momentum going up for the rest of the year in 2024. Get used to, I think, that's the CRM that we've implemented, and just try to build the workflow all over again.
Was it quite tough for you to understand the CRM?
No, actually, I think that's the beauty of things setting up. I think you basically we could have we adjusted the CRM to how that would benefit us. And I think it was very easy to understand, and I think it's probably one of the best CRMs that I've used so far.
Yeah, I mean,
Very user friendly.
I think the CRM is one of our core strengths, and we've connected that to an analytical tool. So we got a very clear view on what exactly we are doing, how our market is shaping up, who are the clients, how do we serve our clients first, and we also have. I mean, it helped us visualize things. I think,
Yes,
right? So I think that's
definitely.
a good one. And what did you feel on your first offer that came out? Was it a surprise to you, or that you were quite pleased? You already knew that you could make that happen.
Uh, yeah, I think I was pleasantly surprised, I would say, because back then I think I think I did made a mistake, because I think when you're basically running on your own, essentially, all you do is you want to make placement. And I think my mindset was, okay, I just want to make my first placement and go. So I mean, to be very honest, I made a mistake of not really qualifying the role properly. So, met up with the client, we spoke about it. His needs, I did never really check whether it's immediate or not. So I just sent him basically a list of candidates that are interested for the role, and went through the interview process, and thank God it was a committed role, and managed to get the placement in. So the candidate was good, negotiations went quite smoothly. So yeah, you really couldn't ask for a better start, to be very honest with you. Like, everything was so smooth, and it's like, oh, okay. And that gave me the confidence to push on and move on.
Fair enough. And what did you feel about getting your first paycheck?
It's definitely different. Because I think on a partnership scheme. I'm on a comms basis, right? So definitely, you get I would say, uh, for the standard recruitment like agencies, you get a base salary and a certain cut of the commission. But over here, you get a bigger percentage of just the comms, and I think it's a lot more rewarding and fulfilling for sure. Definitely big amount that came in. So it was, I think that just motivates you to work even harder, because I think sky is the limit, right? In terms of how much if you work hard, you'll get rewarded, and rewarded handsomely, I would say.
And was there a bit of a difficulty for you to adapt towards, because I think in your previous role there was the office, you had to go down to the office, standard corporate, I mean, Monday to Friday job. But here the ball game is different.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I mean, on my side, it didn't really have much of an impact because for me, it's never a Monday to Friday kind of thing. You're always into the work mode. But was it a huge difference to you on your first day of work? Like, now no one's going to question you.
Yeah.
You're pretty much on your own, but you have got the tools that you need. And what did you feel on that?
Yeah, I think personally for me, it worked for me because I think it's a sort of a double-edged. So I think it could work for people and it might be like a disaster for certain people because I think depending on your personality, I think for me, I prefer it because basically if you have like bills to pay, naturally you need a lot of inner motivation to push, right? If you're stepping in this partnership scheme, even though um is you're sort of on your own, there's no like a manager's like questioning, your KPIs and stuff like that. But I think the difference is like what I feel is you could really make a real impact in the work that you do because I would say I think that the key difference here with age typical agency and being on your own is of course in agencies you have KPIs and everything you do, I think there is steps. I wouldn't say like a red tapes, but there are steps to get probably your answer. If you have an idea, for example, you have to discuss your manager. Your manager to discuss with your MD, for example, and if they don't agree, then you can't push it through. But at least, running on your own, you can give your idea a shot. Whether it work or not is a different story, but at least it's something that you can get an answer out of it. And I think that's what I like because I feel like, especially in a sales environment, it's always good to try new things and then figure what work and what not. If you're constantly just gonna do like the certain KPI like 30 calls a I don't know 50 calls a week, send 10 CV and then and then hope for the best, that's I mean it works, but I think I prefer to try different things, right?
Yeah.
To see what work and what not, and then and then tailor accordingly and go for the most successful tool according to the trend at that
Yeah.
time. Yeah. So I think that was something that I really love, and I think for 2024, I think that also helped me, achieve what, I set out to do.
Yeah, that's good to hear, man. That's assuring as well. Because, I mean, what you're doing there is a bit of an example of the experiment that I had to do, and what the results, what you're bringing on board is kind of like the answer that I need, that it is working, isn't it?
Yeah.
But do bear in mind, this model doesn't work for everyone. It only works for, uh, I mean, consultants who really know their market, who really know what works and what doesn't work. Let's say if you need a lot of day-to-day advice and hand holding,
Mm.
then this model is not something that you should be stepping into, because there's a possibility it may work, but you'll never know. But there's a very high possibility that the person may get lost, and they may really start questioning their career. This model is ideal for someone who really knows their ball game, their specialism, and they want a complete ownership of that desk. They want to run that desk in their own style. And where Stemgenic really interferes, or where we provide the framework, is the resources. And second thing is that professionalism, quality compliance. I think
Yeah.
that's a very important part that I'm very, very particular about. How we talk to our clients, how we talk to our candidates, professional wordings on the communication that we use, and most importantly, yes, we are quite open-minded on creating our social media presence, but at the same time, we are also quite particular in sticking to the legal standards and what can be shared, what cannot be shared. So as long as someone stays within the framework that we have created, and they are able to run with it, I think this model will be superbly. I think this model will work for any particular talents who want to be on their own, running their own show. I mean, to be honest, do you have your annual leaves? We
Yeah.
don't even talk about annual leaves,
True,
right?
true, true.
I mean, leaves don't make any impact
Yeah.
anymore. And
I think that's something I forgot to highlight. And also, I think the flexibility of running on your because your responsibility for your own P&L essentially. So I would say the work flexibility is definitely a plus. You really manage your own schedule. If you need to do something urgent, then you just go for it. You don't have to be worried about whether it's going to be approved or not. So I think that is definitely a huge plus about flexibility for sure.
What about your client side, mate? Did you have any difficulty in selling the business and,
Um, I would say, definitely there are clients that would be hesitant because they're used to working with the big players, or I would say established brands in the market. I think in my market at least, I'm quite thankful that the hiring managers that I spoke with, or the potential hiring managers that I spoke with, because essentially in the consulting market, they are all salespeople, appreciative of people who come out and do on their own. Like, it's like, oh, it takes a lot of courage to go on your own. So they are quite supportive, and they are, so far I would say I've received more positive responses than negative. They're always willing to at least grant me that coffee chat, or that conversation, um to have the initial conversation, to share about what I cover and what I do and why I do this, and why I go on my own, and stuff like that. So I think it actually worked out well in my favor, actually, rather than it being an obstacle. I think that brings me back to what you mentioned. I think having a niche or specialization, I think it works, because even the first initial coffee chat is important, because if they know what you're talking, understand, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about in the market, then okay, then
yeah,
they'll totally forgot about whether you're a big player or small player. It's just about you now.
yeah,
Yeah, as a
yeah.
recruiter. So I think that's the key difference. Yeah.
So with the year coming to an end, now we're moving on to 2025. What's your uh, feedback or take on the business? Where do you think we should be focusing on, and where do you think your focus is going to be for the next year?
Mm. Yeah, I think the business is moving in the right direction. I think, building off on our specialization, and having I would say a relatively successful 2024. I think we are trending in the right direction. I think for my personal goals, I would love to take on more regional work. Really expanding, building more connections, outside of Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia. I think that would be my goal. And I think that's also the beauty of, owning your own P&L, where you actually can take on a bigger scope of work, not only just focusing, within the Singapore market, but also, expanding out of Singapore market, building, connections, across the region. I think so. I think that's quite exciting, and I'm really looking forward to 2025.
The new programs that we have launched may also be quite
Yes.
beneficial, because
Yes.
based on my research, you don't have these programs in these countries.
Yeah,
So it's going to be very interesting to see how candidates, to perceive these programs and how it's going to add value.
definitely.
And we are also open for feedbacks and suggestions on all the services that we do, because that's where we're going to make those programs a lot more sharper, and also to build the capability on developing more, infrastructure. And what do you think about the client side? I mean, I mean, if you look at this year, second half of the year, it has always been a lot of layoffs and, retrenchments this year, right? But I would like to be a bit more optimistic for 2025, because if you look at 2023, the word restructuring has been bubbling,
Mm.
and companies having plans of leaning down. 24 was more of the action phase of that particular plan.
Yeah.
So whatever that was bubbling materialized, and the companies leaning down, restructuring, and they're also looking at, resources moving outside of Singapore to the neighboring countries, mostly Thailand, Malaysia. So these were most of my client movements were actually on these particular countries. So I think with these particular restructuring, there also has to be a follow up of, new positions being
Yes,
created.
definitely.
And I think, Q1 and Q2 could be a good visibility towards, these roles. I think maybe at least we will have a glimpse of what exactly the new markets are going to be looking like. Um, Another important point is that all these laid off candidates and candidates who have been affected by the recent retrenchments, that they will also find their place, the new roles that are there in the market, where exactly they fit into the requirements. I think these will actually have an impact moving forward, right? So I would like to keep that optimism on. And if you also look at majority of our businesses or the clients that we used to work with, the numbers are looking quite good. Business wise, they've done quite well actually.
Yes.
Even though we are talking about retrenchments and layoffs, the that's more of an evolution for process for the business to take the next step in their growth. But
Exactly.
if you
It's
actually look at their revenue, the revenue is quite strong.
yeah.
So one way or the other, this needs to be seen as a good positive sign, right?
Yeah.
Of course, I'm not saying this across all the companies. There are certain companies who are badly affected as well, but that's, let's not go down that road. But overall, from a performance perspective, these companies have done well. So basically, Q1 and Q2 could be quite interesting,
Agreed.
which is also followed by quite a lot of new interesting roles that we are currently discussing with about our new pipeline. So these are going to be spreaded across the region. And what's interesting is I think there's quite a lot of focus on leadership for regional capacity. I think that's something that I would see as a new direction that we are moving forward. But other than that, the rest of the information, I just have to really see how things are going to evolve, right? We can't put a
Yeah.
clear lid
Exactly.
onto that, right?
Yeah.